Welcome to Jeep Sheep TV. Today we're installing the Power Commander 3 by Dynojet.
Alright.
If you guys didn't catch it, I made a video about this Power Commander 3 explaining all about what it is and what it does and why I like it or whatever, right? And so that video I posted last week, and you can see a link to it down below. That's right, last week. We upload every single week, so if you're not subscribed, I highly recommend that. Yeah. Anyway, installing the PC3 is breathtakingly easy, which is again one of its strengths. The first thing you have to do is, being that it's for a motorcycle, is you have to change out the injector pinouts. The next one is you have to tap in to the throttle body, and then you need to tap into ground. Everything after that is setup, and really there's only one setting you need to be worried about, and that is the throttle position calibration, because this was again set up for a motorcycle. And then after that, you can adjust some of the fuel parameters on here with buttons. Let's get started. TPS wire is going to be this orange one. It's this middle. I believe the other two are probably like a power and ground, and then this would be your return wire. Here is another wire that I have, and I'm going to wrap it around here, as the whole point of this is to tap into this wire. This is going to be a lot of solder because I exposed a lot of wire. There you go. And just like that, you've got another wire which carries signal from the throttle position sensor. And so this can be used for our install. If you need a graphical representation of what's going on here, I have that for you as well. You can find this document down below. There will be a link to a Google website and you can download it from there. But what we have here is the Power Commander 3, and everything in red is what's included in the wire harness on the Power Commander, and blue is what is existing in your Jeep. So this makes it very clear for you to see that the Power Commander 3 is in between the wire harness and the injectors themselves. I've also outlined the different colors. If you decide to splice into your Power Commander's wire harness like I did to put in the correct connectors, then this will help you to see that, okay, black and green corresponds to blue. You'll also notice that the injector wire harness for the Jeep shows all of the 4 injectors running a green-orange power signal, and that is what is powering your Power Commander. And you can see that here it goes in and it goes back to the Power Commander on cylinder 4, whereas on all of the others it's going to just pass straight on through and not go to the Power Commander at all,
because the power commander is worried more about switching that ground signal than interfering with the power signal to the injectors, with the exception of powering itself. You can also see the TPS sensor is laid out here, and ground is as well.
For this next part, we're just going to install this bad boy. Essentially, it is incredibly easy how this works. You take the caps off of your injectors, the connections off your injectors, and you plug it into the wiring harness. So that cylinder 1, I labeled mine cylinder 1 with the label maker, because why not? Okay, good connection there. Oh boy, cylinder 2. Wow, what an absolute mess. So now this is the throttle position sensor. We got a blade connector here. You need to put a blade connector on here. And then you have ground, and that is literally everything. So that's pretty cool. All right, blade connector. Go on there. Ground's been hooked up to a bolt. All right, you guys, let's take a look at what's going on here. We've got the power commander right here. It has this wire is running a 9-volt signal to it. Technically, there's an adapter for a 9-volt battery, but right now I just have a 9-volt power source going to the wall so I can turn it on without the car being on. The car is turned to ignition. Jeep is turned to ignition, and I'm checking to see if I can detect the throttle position. So let's take a look at that. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to move the throttle. Oh, look at that. Okay. If I turn all the way open, it says it's 37% throttle, and that's 100%. So we need to adjust this throttle position. So we go to Power Commander Tools, Set Throttle Position. I'm currently closed, and so I'm getting a 4,400 reading. And I'm just going to send that over to close. And that tells it that close is 4,400. Now I'm going to open it all the way up, 1,400. Tell that that's open. And now let's hit OK. Yes. And that's way more accurate. Get my face out of the way. Let me go to wide open throttle. 100%. 9% there. Let's see if we can set that just a little bit different. We don't want it reading 9% when it's actually 0. There, that's 0. And that's 100. Now before we do the initial startup, I want to show you something on here. So I'm going to unplug it, and then I'm going to plug it back in. And it does this little startup thing. And if I press all 3 buttons at once, it takes me to this menu here. So it's showing the LED is below 0. If I went up, 2 means it's at 0. Go up by pressing, and then you hold to go down. Okay, and then mid is the same, and high is the same. So what this does is this is adjusting the fuel amount or level at low, mid, and high RPM ranges. And those are set up in the computer itself. And I can go into that more when we talk about actually tuning this thing. But what this does is allows you to make minor adjustments on the fly. I just want to make sure I wired it correctly, so we're going to see if it even starts. No dice. Something's wrong. Shoot. It was a ground wire. We got that corrected. Let's take a look at what this is like to start.
let's take a look. So we got our percent throttle, which is just kind of bouncing around in a negligible range. Got an RPM of 800 and something. And then this guy, I think that's our throttle position, or it's our fuel charge, which is -2. But I'm gonna go with throttle position because when I rev it, it goes up and our fuel charge actually goes down. So let's give it a rev real quick. And this is saying around 900, and this is saying just over 1,000. So they're a little inconsistent. I probably trust the PC3 more just because my wiring, my dash has not been very reliable. But it works.
Bonus round. Installing the PC3 was really easy, but it's not necessarily the best method. Some of the ease in installation comes from it gaining its power from the injectors. If you don't already know, the injectors get a 12 volt constant power to them, and then they are switched on ground. Because of that constant 12 volt coming to the injectors, you can power the PC3 off of it, and that's exactly what they do. They pull power off of injector 4. The one thing I noticed about this setup that I really didn't like was when you start the car, typically I'll turn the key, listen for the fuel pump, and then I'll start it. Well, this Jeep, what it does is it'll start that fuel pump, and if it doesn't see any rotation in the engine, it will only run it for 3 seconds and then turn it off. So the PC3 was turning on and then turning off, and then you start the car and it has to do its boot sequence while you're starting the car, causing the Jeep to start a little bit slower with the PC3 installed.
The only solution to the slow start is to find a wire that is on when you're both starting and running. And we learned when we were installing the EFI kit on the ambulance that it's actually very difficult to find a wire that does this. This is a wiring diagram that I downloaded a while back, and I found it so useful that I laminated it. I'll post a link down below. We have hot at all times, hot in start and run, which is what we're looking for, hot at all times, and hot at all times. Hot and start and run has 2 lines. One, which is going to the backup lamps and whatever, and the AC system, which I don't have. And the other one, which goes to the diagnostic connector and to the power control module, and it runs the auto shutdown relay and fuel pump and all of that good stuff. I'm gonna get some hate for this, I can feel it already, but I'm choosing to go with this wire here. Yes, I understand that it is touching the powertrain control module, and it's the diagnostic port in a lot of things, but there's a reason for that. The reason I want to use this is if this fuse blows, and this is under the dashboard, it's 10 amp fuse. If this fuse blows, it kills everything. All fuel injection, all of it. And I'm running a controller that controls fuel injection. So your troubleshooting is localized to your fuel injection everything rather than like air conditioning circuitry that I probably don't even have. Anyway, I'm feeling like this is a safer bet. You may disagree, and that's okay. But the other reason why I want to do this is because the diagnostic port is right here. Is this little 6-pin port on this Jeep. And it's basically useless because there's so few things that can tap into the diagnostics that you really can't use it. So we've got this yellow-white wire comes up in here, and it has blade connections in here, and I just threw a blade connector right on there that goes to my PC3. Another reason why I like this is there are readily available connectors that go to this 6-pin that are rubbery and looks somewhat watertight, and so I'm going to get one of those. To account for power coming from here rather than from the injector, I removed the wire that was pulling power from the injector and just connected the injector power to the one from the wire harness as it does on all of the other connectors. And I'll offer a separate
wiring diagram for this modification as well in the case that you want to do this. The second part of this bonus round is, you can see this big loom here. I bought a connector on Amazon so that way I can disconnect the wire harnessy part from the controller. If we go inside, you can see there's the connector, and I'll post a link below. And then the connector goes up and into the PC3, which is now mounted under the dash. The pros to this is I can connect a USB port to this, to a computer, set it on the passenger seat, and I can do my tuning on the fly in different load conditions. This is going to dramatically change how quickly I'm able to finish this mod. A little bit of Velcro on there. You got the PC3 hanging down. Let's see if we can mount. There you go. Now when I just turn the key to on, she starts right up. And then I can go in and do my 3-button adjustments right here from the driver's seat. It also works pretty well as an indicator for throttle position, and just another diagnostic tool you have in the cab. Very cool. Just like before, the PC3 is receiving signal from the Jeep wire harness. You can tell because it's dirty. Goes in through the PC3 and back out into your injector. And I labeled each of these 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I just kind of stuffed everything back here for just a little bit cleaner of a look. And then as for your ground, the ground wire they give you isn't terribly long, but luckily we have plenty of 10mm bolts and or nuts. And I say 10mm because the connector on the ground wire fits over a 10mm bolt very nicely and not much bigger than that. So I'm going here to my fuel rail. Previously I was on the throttle body, but the fuel rail is nice and close. Lastly, the blue is my throttle position sensor, which goes up into the wire harness, and that actually connects via blade connector to this gray wire here. And red is, again, the power source, which I'm pulling from the diagnostic connector. I feel like I need to tell you what's coming up next. The next video is going to be about figuring out how this PC3 affects the Jeep. We're going to be using various different methods to determine how adjusting the fuel trim in the PC3 affects the air-fuel ratio coming out the tailpipe. After that, we're going to be focusing solely on performance. What changes can we make to make the Jeep faster and run better? Lastly, if we can tell that the Jeep is running better than before, I'm putting it on a dyno to give you some accurate numbers as to what this modification actually does. If you're really excited about this project and you feel like you want to help support, this project is not free, it's not terribly expensive as part of the allure to the mod. However, a lot of the testing and stuff and the tools required are going to cost me a pretty penny. So if you feel like you want to support this project, there's 2 ways you can do so. One is I do have a Patreon account, I've kind of ignored it, but I'm going to try and post some of the specific tools that I'm going to need on there and roughly what they cost and some goals to get to them. The second one is my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page, Jeep Sheep TV. If you go to the shop section, I'm selling stickers. The stickers are really cool because they look good, they get the name out there, and then you have something tangible for your contribution. So I highly encourage you go to the Facebook page and Patreon and just browse through there. If it's not your thing, that's totally okay. Keep liking, sharing, subscribing, whatever it is you people do. And I'll see you